Hi guys, this is Mike Edwards, attorney, talking to you about a topic in criminal law, and I'm talking today about driving while impaired, formerly known as DUI. I'm going to do a couple segments on this topic because it's a very vast subject, and I'm going to break it down into a couple of different topics. First of all, I want to talk about how in the world does somebody end up getting a DWI? What do you got to do, or what do you got to mess up by doing in order to get charged in the first place, what it takes to be charged. Secondly, I want to talk about sentencing and punishment, what you can get if you are charged with DWI in North Carolina, and maybe some strategies for helping to minimize your sentence and what we can do to help there. And finally, I want to touch on a subject that almost nobody knows about because, I don't know, it just hadn't gotten out there very much. There's so much information out in today's world in so many places. People used to get news in one place, the newspaper or television station, local, so everybody knew what the rules were. Now they're so varied that people don't know about the fact that you can easily be charged with driving while impaired with not one bit of alcohol in your system. And I'm talking about prescription drug type impairment, which leads to the same charge as if you are drunk on alcohol. So we're going to talk about that. Let's start with this first topic being, how in the heck do you get charged with DWI? It's so easy. And some of the smartest people that I've ever known tend to get charged with that. So you don't have to be a dummy to get charged with DWI. Although I have seen some dummies get charged with DWI, but you can be a very smart person. Just your guard's down, you miscalculate, you don't know what the standards are. Let's start there. Back in the old days, the limit was 0.10. What you do to determine DWI in North Carolina, there's two ways to be found guilty. And when I say the 0.10, that was the old standard. Now it's 0.08. And that is in a case where you're blowing on a breath machine. It's called an intoxilizer. And if in North Carolina, you are presumed, and it's actually pretty airtight, no question about it. If you blow 0.08 or more on an intoxilizer machine within a relatively short period of driving, up to 2-3 hours before the test is administered, is still a short period in the North Carolina law, you're going to be found guilty of DWI. Another way to be found guilty of DWI, if you refuse a breath test and the officer has an opinion that you are appreciably impaired, judges tend to, and juries do tend to, for the most part as well, take the officer's opinion based on performance tests and other observations, even if you don't have a breath test. You never want to refuse a breath test, in my opinion, except in a very limited time when you might do that, but that's even controversial. The better rule is never refuse a test. The one exception to that is such that it's debatable, so I'll be happy to talk to you privately about that if anybody's sitting around wondering about what's that exception, because I even debate myself about whether it is. Bottom line is, you're usually better off taking the test and then dealing with the consequences. So I'm going to talk about that. Now, what is it? We'll get into some things about punishment and all these things, but what I'm looking at is, it's not that difficult to be charged with DWI. The rules are pretty consistent over time. I was trained and went through actual guinea pig test in legal training, and essentially, if you go back to before craft beer came into play, one 12-ounce beer, and I'm talking about Budweiser, normal beer we grew up drinking or people had, as years ago before craft beer came on the scene. One 12-ounce beer, one 4-ounce glass of wine. And that's controversial because normally if you go get a glass of wine with dinner, it's going to be a 6-ounce pour. So people get mixed up on that. 4-ounce pours are rare anymore, but that is considered to be equal to 12 ounces of regular beer. And then 1.5 ounces of alcohol, which would be the amount they're supposed to put in one alcohol drink. So that's what you're talking about. So if you go and drink one 12-ounce beer, I don't care. Forget about this stuff. I hear it all the time after 35 years. Well, I had dinner, so I couldn't have done, and I'd eaten, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. I'm telling you, I'm talking science here. This is not fake news. This is science. It's your body processes it regardless of the digestive process. Now, you're going to have somebody tell you that's a bunch of baloney, but I'm here to tell you it's not, because I've been through the training and I've seen the results. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how much you weigh. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. There might be small discrepancies in how quickly your body will process that and give a breath result between weight and things of that nature, but not enough to make a significant difference. We're talking about minuscule differences. So you got to go with these standards as being applicable. Every 12-ounce glass of beer, you go up 0.02. 0.02. Every 4 ounce, I'm going to do 4 here. 4 ounces, ladies. I have a lot of ladies that get trouble with too much wine because they're counting by the glass instead of by the ounce. Every 4-ounce glass of wine, you go up 0.02 blood alcohol level. Every one normal drink, and I'm talking about a regular drink where the bartender mixes it exactly right at 1.5 ounces. Bartender does it exactly right. Doesn't go over. Now, if they're using a measuring stick to mix the drink, that's fine. But if they're just going based on being a bartender for as long as they have and knowing what they're doing, some bartenders are incredible what they do. So they don't necessarily measure, but just keep that in mind. Okay, so now we've got that. Let's say you sit there at the bar and you have 3 regular Budweiser beers. You should be up at 0.06 at that point. Well, let's say you do have dinner. Doesn't matter about the dinner. It matters about the time that goes by. So let's say that you sit there at the bar, eating or not, for a couple hours. So the total time you've been there, you've gone up 0.06 to 3 beers. And you sit there a couple hours, you're going to come down, generally speaking, 0.01 for each hour. So now you're ready to leave. No more alcohol. Let's do the math. 0.06 up, 0.02 down. You're probably going to walk out at 0.04. That's not, I don't advocate that, but that's normal. I mean, you're not going to blow, you're half to the legal limit. There shouldn't be anything, unless you're tired or hadn't had sleep or sick or something else or taking cold medicine on top of that or something. If it's a normal situation, normal day, you should be fine. If you get pulled over, they may make you take a roadside test. It's probably going to show within 1 or 2 on that handheld, which doesn't count. That's just an indicator for the officer. You're probably going to do fine on a performance test. I doubt an officer even put you through that at that point. You're okay. It's not illegal to drink and drive. It's illegal to drink and drive while you're appreciably impaired. okay? Don't forget the wine. If you sit there and drink 3 glasses of wine, then you have had a total of, what is that, 18 ounces of wine? Okay, so 18 ounces of wine, you're talking about going up 0.02 for each 4. So if my math is correct there, are we not at probably 0.09 up? If we're going up 0.02 for each 4, that's 0.08. Add another 0.01 for that extra 2 ounces. I think I'm right. I think you're looking at a 0.09. Now let's say you sit there and drink those glasses of wine fairly quickly. I've seen people do that. And it's not good to do, but I've seen it happen. Okay, let's say you drink those 3. Let's say you drink a 4th one. So now we have got a total of 24 ounces. Let's go ahead and make that for our example. Now you stay a couple hours, so you've got 24 ounces of wine in your system. And remember the rule, every 4 ounces, 0.02 up. So now you're talking about going up to 0.12. 6 glasses of 4 ounces, up 0.02 each one, 0.12. And you sit there for 3 hours while you're drinking those 4 glasses of wine. So you think, I'm fine, I just had 4 glasses, but I've been sitting here 3 hours. Well, you're going to come from 0.12 down to 0.09. That's where a lot of people get caught up. They sit there, you start feeling fine, and you don't feel like you're impaired, but your blood alcohol level tells a different story. Even if you're there for 4 hours, you still may be at 0.08, and that ain't good. So keep that in mind. Liquor's a whole different thing. You know, if you sit there taking shots, that's another issue. Is a shot an ounce and a half? Is it 2 ounces? Is it 2.5 ounces? Nobody sits down and writes down, okay, I've had 4 shots, and Mr. Bartender, were those 2 ounce shots or those ounce and a half? Because I'm trying to keep up with how much I can drink and how long I need to stay. Nobody does that. It's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. It would be smart if they did, but it's ridiculous to assume you will do that. You just don't do that. Craft beer is a whole different deal. Everybody loves craft beer. It's a whole different deal. That ABV value that you see posted up on the board, it tells you how strong it is. What is it? The normal Budweiser's 3%, and you're sitting there drinking 6%. And instead of drinking a 12 ounce, you're drinking a 16 ounce. Now, I was an accounting Phi Beta Kappa major in college, but I'd still have to probably get out a calculator if I was sitting there drinking craft beers, and to plug in the ABV value and also calculating the ounces. And, you know, after you've drank a couple beers, is the math going to be accurate? So you see what I'm saying? It's really dangerous when you get into craft beer territory. I don't know, probably with a craft beer, you know, 1, you're going to be 1 16 ounce, you're probably going to be fine. 2 gets a little weird, especially with the ABV count. And you think, I just have 2 beers when I go out? Well, if you're drinking craft beer, I've had a lot of young people especially get caught up in that, where they're used to drinking 3 beers and we're fine, but now it's craft beers, and that's like I just drank 6 beers. So it gets really strange, so you got to be real careful on that. So that's how you get a DWI. Another thing to think about with DWI is that it's easy to get caught up in license checks as well. They do a lot of just, license checks coming off the interstate, different times of the year. Everybody says, well, it's Labor Day, so they're going to do a license check. Probably so, but they do them in the middle of March. Why do they do that? Well, they don't want people out here impaired killing other people, including themselves. That's why they do it. So that's what's going on. I mean, there's heavy enforcement. Our officers are doing the best they can. They have unmarked cars now. They watch your driving. If you're driving really slow, that's one of the biggest indicators of a drunk driver. By the same token, if you're driving really fast, then that's one of the most dangerous DWI drivers. And I've had people stop going, 80 in a 55 zone, impaired. That's just incredible. So it's very easy to get caught for DWI because there's a lot of good officers out there watching out for all of us, our safety. And it's easy to get caught up in drinking too much and not knowing the impact it has on your body and following all these wives' tales about, well, I've had some, the food soaks it up or my pizza soaks it. Instead of looking stuff up on the internet or listening to wives' tales that I've heard since I was a kid about alcohol's impact and how it affects DWI, why don't you give us a call at A. Michael Edwards, attorney, and we'll be happy to talk to you about that. Or just watch this video again, and you'll learn a little bit about how easy it is to get a DWI. In my next segment, I'm going to talk about punishments for DWI and some things that we do for... actually, you know what? I think maybe in my next segment, I'll just talk about the prescription drug situation and follow up a little bit on what I'm talking about here, and then we'll talk about punishment and what we can do for you. In any event, I do more DWIs than anybody, and I have for 25 years in McDowell County, and prior to that, I prosecuted more DWIs than anybody in McDowell and surrounding counties. We used to I tried 3 jury trials in one day, 3 DWIs in one day, back in the DA's office. So I've tried a bunch of these. I don't know if I'm up to 50,000 or not yet. That may be way too much, but I know I'm over 10,000 surely with DA days and also defense days over 25 years. We do a ton of them. We try to help people out, and we can help you get a permit to drive on a lot of the cases where you lose your license. But we'll talk about that in another segment. A. Michael Edwards, attorney at law, talking about DWI, driving while impaired. And give us a call if we can help you on that or any other thing at 828-652-8011. Website is attorneyedwards.com, located in gloriously beautiful downtown Marion, where I grew up, and my office is there on Logan Street. Thank you for listening to this, and I hope you'll listen to my other segments on DWI.